story. Some of you don't believe that I have 9 children. That's our newest was born 6 months ago, our 9th. Some of them are more clownish than others. You can't see it. Before I jump into my topic today, I wanted to show you something to give some perspective on what I'm going to teach. This is a view of Jerusalem, the ancient city. So you're sitting right above Herod's temple here. So there's the temple that they would have gone into to perform sacrifices outside, do this stuff in here. Look at this city. Everywhere I turn, I get a different view, a different angle of the same city. The reality is, brothers and sisters, very, very similar to what Brother Hilton talked about today, is the scriptures are a lot like this. It doesn't matter which view I take on the scriptures, I still can find my life. I can find me. I can find the Savior and Heavenly Father. And I can find the adversary, our opposition on every page. It's all our story. Let me give you a little analogy to see if this makes more sense. If you stand next to a window inside of a house at night, actually not at night, at day, you stand at this window, you can look out the window and you can see views that stretch as far as the eye can see into the horizon, or you can see fairly close things as well. As the sun goes down, what happens to that very same window pane? And by the way, you can talk. This can be interactive, I hope. What happens to that very same window pane? All of a sudden, I have a harder time seeing what's out there, and what do I see? I see me. I see my surroundings. Brothers and sisters, the scriptures are like windows. You look into the scriptures and you see distant scenes, ancient scenes, faraway people, faraway customs and languages and cultures and teachings. The longer you look at them, the more you start to realize, well, wait a minute, this really is my story. And I'm reflected on this page, and on this page, and on this page. And it gets easier and easier and easier. So, today we're going to take some window shots, some different angles on different things in the Book of Mormon, and try to find our story, not just ancient history. Okay? So, let's begin. Those of you who have scriptures, join me in Ether chapter 2. Ether chapter 2. This story is a famous one where the Jaredites are leaving. They're leaving the Tower of Babel. They're working their way through the wilderness, which, by the way, let me also say this. We can turn off the projectors. I'm not going to use the projectors anymore if you want. It might be less distracting. Perfect. Let me give you a really big, high-level mirror reflection for our story for just a minute. One of the things that you'll find repeated over and over and over again is God taking people out of a comfort zone, out of a known realm, out of a home, putting them out in an unknown realm, a wilderness. It's wild. It's unknown. It's scary. Bad things can happen. It's unpredictable. Brothers and sisters, it happens all over the place in the scriptures. You go into the wilderness to find God. That's where He helps you find Him. Is when you don't have all the answers. When you don't know what you're going to do anymore because you've tried everything you know how and it's not working anymore. It's out in the wilderness where people traditionally find God the most in the scriptures. And that's your story. Because if you think about it, you lived in heaven a long time ago. It was a comfort zone. It was home. But you had progressed as far as you could. You needed to leave the comfort zone and go out into a wilderness to be able to then progress. So that story repeats over and over and over again in the Bible and in the Book of Mormon. The whole Book of Mormon starts with Lehi being sent out into a wilderness. And it's there where he finds God. It's there where Nephi finds God. It's there where Sariah finds God. And unfortunately, it's there where Laman and Lemuel increasingly turn their back on God. Wildernesses all by themselves don't bring you to God. Your reaction to the unknown, your reaction to the wilderness is what determines whether or not you are coming closer or further away from God. He gives you the opportunity, invitation, but he doesn't force you to find him or love him or trust him. So, in this story, as we pick up the storyline in Ether chapter 2, the brother of Jared has just built his 8 barges. You're all familiar probably to one degree or another with this story. The 8 barges, the boats, are built so well that they're tight like unto addition. It created 3 problems. And here's obedient brother of Jared, and he goes to the Lord with his 3 problems at the top of a mountain. He says, Lord, I've built the barges. Now, here are my 3 problems. You're all in Ether chapter 2, right? Look at verse 19. You could mark the 3 problems. Why? Because these aren't just the brother of Jared's problems. Remember? If I look at it long enough, I recognize that window pane to the past becomes a mirror to the present. And I say, oh, these are my 3 problems. Now I'm a little more interested in them. Verse 19. And behold, O Lord, in them there is no light. That's problem number 1. Number 2, whither shall we steer? And number 3, also we perish, for in them we cannot breathe. Light, steering, and breathing. 3 pretty big problems if you're going to cross the ocean. Isn't it interesting what God does? He quickly and immediately responds to the brother of Jared's 3 problems with one answer. Are you noticing the problem? Verse 20, the Lord said unto the brother of Jared, Behold, thou shalt make a hole in the top and also in the bottom, and when thou shalt suffer for air, thou shalt unstop the hole and receive air. Done. God gave him a step-by-step set of instructions on how to fix the breathing problem. Now, you and I might be tempted, if we're in Mahanrai, in the brother of Jared's position, to say, okay, Lord, that's one of my 3 problems, but what are you going to do about these other 2? Give me the step-by-step instructions on those as well. The brother of Jared didn't do that. I love this man. He's one of my heroes. They're all my heroes. I shouldn't say that, because I love them all. He simply went and acted on the revelation that God had given him. I so often wait to try to get more answers before acting on the revelation that God's already given me. And I could learn a lot in my story from the brother of Jared. He gave an answer, act. I love it. Brother of Jared, he went and he did it. He did the 2 holes, then he goes back up to the mountain and he says, look at verse 22. He cried again unto the Lord, saying, O Lord, behold, I have done even as thou hast commanded me, and I have prepared the vessels for my people. And behold, now he's going to repeat, there's no light in them. And now look what he does. I love this. Behold, O Lord, wilt thou suffer that we shall cross this great water in darkness? I don't know how you read that, but I read that as the brother of Jared saying to God, are you going to require us to cross this great water in darkness? We'll do that. We'd rather not. But it feels like he's saying, we're willing to do that. That's a big sacrifice. This meek, humble, submissive prophet saying to God, do you want us to cross the waters in darkness? I love God's response. Because he then takes that second problem. Remember, light was the first problem, steering was the second, and breathing was the third. God already gave him step-by-step instructions for the third one. That's done. It's not a problem anymore. Now God's going to take the second one that he didn't mention the second time here, and he says, don't worry about the steering. I'm going to steer you with my wind that's going to come out of my mouth. I'm going to take care of your steering problem, free of charge, saved by grace alone, steered by grace alone. What do you want to do about your light problem? What do you want me to do about it for you? Now, brothers and sisters, ancient history becomes my story. I don't care what question you go to the Lord with, it's going to come in one of those three ways, the response. He's either going to give you some step-by-step instructions, or he's going to say, don't worry about it. You've got enough on your plate, you've got enough other things to take care of, I'll own that one for you. I got you covered. Or he's going to say, what do you want to do? You see, we fought for our agency in the war in heaven. Now we're here, we don't want it. Have you noticed that? We want God to fill which answer to our prayers, which solution do we wish every time we knelt down and prayed he would give us, which kind of an answer? Some of you are like step by step. If you think about it, wouldn't you love it if it was all saved by, oh, don't worry about it, I got that covered. Oh, you have a problem, I got that covered too. Oh, don't worry, I got that one covered. Wouldn't that be a great life? No, that wouldn't be a great life if God did everything for you and you just woke up in the morning and everything just this paved road of gold for you. Everything worked out perfectly. That's not why we're here. That's not a wilderness. Now, there are enough of those in our wilderness experience to keep us moving forward. But he's going to balance exactly what you need for exactly the time period that you're going through to help you build your faith and develop your capacity as a son or daughter of God. Now, isn't it interesting? He doesn't give the brother of Jared any more direction other than, oh, and you probably don't want to use fire, and you probably don't want to use windows. They'll break. At that point, the brother of Jared should have said, how violent is this storm going to be if thick windows are going to break? He didn't ask that question. He simply went up into an exceedingly high mountain, and he dug out ore, and he went down and he melted it down and he made it as pure as he could, and he brought up 16 smooth, transparent stones, and he laid them out in front of the Lord, and he said, Lord, here's what I've done. Will you please touch these stones with your finger and make them glow? Now, Mahanrai was a pretty bright guy. Can we all agree with that? Yeah? God didn't have to give him a lot of instruction. Mahanrai's up at this really high level. If he had been down one level or two, God might have said to him something like this. Now, what do you want to do about your light problem? By the way, you might want to look at that really high mountain over there. What do you want to do? Down a level from that might be, go hike to the top of that mountain and just scratch your head and ask yourself, what do you want to do about the light problem? Down one level from that, he might have said, go dig in the dirt up there on that tall mountain. Hold some more. Now, what do you want me to do about your light problem? Are you following me? It could go all the way down to, go dig out some more, take it down, build a really hot fire, put the ore on the ground, look at the ore, look at the fire, look at the ore, look at the fire. What do you want to do about your light problem? And then on the very lowest levels, kind of probably where I enter the story, might be, go get some more, melt it down, make it pure transparent stones, make 16 of them, make them as good as you can, bring them up here. Now, Mahanrai, you have 16 stones, you have 8 barges. How many stones do you want to put in each barge? You decide. You see, he's going to find you wherever you are, and he's going to push you. He's going to stretch you. He's going to make you reach beyond what you've ever been able to accomplish before to the next level, realizing that it's going to have more opportunities as you move through life. Now, this family, they finally get everything, this group, they get everything in the barge ready to go. Now, jump over really quickly to chapter 6. Look at this. You're in Ether chapter 6. Let's look at a few of the words. Starting with verse, let's go to verse 4. Actually, jump, for the sake of time, go to verse 6. They're on the barges, they're out on the water. Got it? Verse 6. It came to pass that they were, actually we've got to get verse 5. I wish I had my regular scriptures here. I'm better in my regular scriptures than in this window here. Verse 5. It came to pass that the Lord God caused that there should be a furious wind blow upon the face of the waters. I don't know what the Italian word is for furious. But furious in English is furioso. It's bad. I would be saying, Lord, can you just make a nice gentle breeze to blow us across this water? Why does it have to be furious? Why does it have to be so hard? Thus they were tossed upon the waves of the sea before the wind. Notice verse 6. By the way, is this your story? Have there been times in your life when it's felt like the winds and the waves have been blowing and it's been horrible? Look at verse 6. It came to pass that they were many times buried in the depths of the sea because of the mountain waves which broke upon them and the great and terrible tempests which were caused by the fierceness of the wind. Brothers and sisters, we know where those winds came from. God is sending them. Isn't it interesting that in my life, the time when I often feel the most forsaken of God, the most forgotten of God, is when things get out of control. Everything seems to be falling apart. Nothing seems to be going right. I feel like I'm getting buried. I'm overwhelmed. I can't do it anymore. Isn't it interesting that we have a God in heaven who's saying, I'm doing this precisely so that you stop thinking you can do this alone. Turn to me, trust in me, look to me. I'll help you. I love this. Verse 7. This is your story. It came to pass that when they were buried in the deep, there was no water that could hurt them, their vessels being tight like unto a dish. And notice, they cried unto the Lord, and he brought them again upon the top of the waters. The harder the wind is blowing, the faster you're progressing towards heaven. You don't want a gentle breeze because it's not going to be moving you very quickly towards heaven. You want it to be rough. You want things to be propelling you and helping you turn to God. Let me share. Is it okay if I share a personal experience? I was serving in Brazil, down in the Curitiba mission, in the south of Brazil. I was in the city of Toledo, Paraná, and we were excited because a member of our ward, his name was João. Is it Giovanni in Italian? John? I'll call him Giovanni. Giovanni had a brother. Giovanni was huge. Unlike me, he was huge in every dimension. This man was large in stature. And his brother was just like him. Giovanni's a member, his brother was not. And Giovanni had set up an appointment with us to come and teach his brother. We showed up at the appointed day, appointed time, and here Giovanni stood with his wife and 3 children, 2 very small children at her skirt, and she was holding a new baby. Giovanni is very large. His children were very small, very skinny. You could tell they were not eating well. I worried about them. And he said, "Elders, I'm sorry, my brother couldn't come today. They both worked at the water treatment plant in the city." And he said, "My brother got called in to work. We're both worried we're going to lose our job because they're cutting back and we're the 2 newest employees. I don't know what I'm going to do. We'll have to find other employment, but for the missionary discussion, we'll have to reschedule that. I said, no problem. But our mission president had asked us to never leave a home without first sharing a brief scripture or message and leaving a prayer with a blessing on the home. So I asked him if we could do that. He said, I would like that. So we did. I'm sure it was a fine message. I don't remember a thing from it. I'm sure it was a fine prayer. I don't even remember who gave that prayer. But the next part I'll never forget as long as I live. We stood up from this wooden planked floor in a very humble small home. And we got ready to leave, and Giovanni nodded to his wife. She went into the kitchen right there and came back with a grocery sack with 2 loaves of freshly made bread. They were still warm. There was still slight, it smelled good. And it was beautiful bread. And I looked at the bread, I looked at these children, and my heart sunk. I thought, here's this family who is not eating well, and they're giving away 2 loaves of fresh made bread. And I very well knew that we had multiple loaves of bread in our apartment. We were doing well. And I didn't want to offend him. But my heart was aching for these children. And I said, Giovanni, thank you very much for the offer. It means a great deal. But will you please feed this to your children? And he said, no, elders, that's for you. I said, inside, he said, Heavenly Father, please help this man understand. I said, Giovanni, we've got plenty of food and money to take care of our needs. Will you please feed this to your children? They're hungry. They need food. Did I mention that Giovanni was very large in stature? I mentioned that, yes? He stepped forward and he said, Elder Griffin, please take the bread. And then it hit me, a flash of brilliance. Here's this family who's struggling in a storm and they need help. Giovanni, how about if we all cut the bread and eat it together? What, don't you think that was an inspired idea? Let's all eat the bread together. Giovanni took one more step forward. I'm holding out the bread like this in a sack, and his hand, like this big, grabbed my hand and squeezed. And I will never forget the image. It was emblazoned on my spiritual memory till the day I die. I will be able to remember this image and the pain in my hand as I looked up into the face with one tear coming down his right cheek as Giovanni looked at me and he said, Elder Griffin, you don't understand. My family needs the blessings of the Lord now more than we've ever needed them before. Will you please take the bread? All of a sudden, my prayer was answered on my own head. And all of a sudden, I perfectly understood the principle. And I smiled back and I said, yes, with all my heart, I will accept this offering from you, Giovanni. Thank you. But I'll only take it on one condition. He squeezed my hand again. It's a good condition. That you let us offer one more prayer. And he said, I would like that. I remember that prayer. Because I offered that one. And here's little Elder Griffin holding a bag of 2 loaves of bread. And I poured my heart out to God to open the windows of heaven and bless this dear family. A family of faith. A family who was underneath a mountain wave and encompassed about by winds and tempests and they didn't know what was going to happen. Brothers and sisters, he didn't lose his job in the next 2 weeks. I know that because I was there for 2 more weeks and then I got transferred. I have no idea whatever happened with this family. But I know that God did not forsake them. I don't know if he ended up having to change jobs or move or whatever, but with that kind of faith in his wilderness experience, I knew he was going to be just fine. And he was going to progress and develop and move forward. Okay, can we turn and take another view? We've only got 17 minutes. Let's try to fit in a few more. Is that okay? Okay, go with me to Jacob 5. That famous chapter that everybody loves because you come to it and you say, oh, I love Jacob 5. This is the longest chapter in the Book of Mormon. Right? You come to it and you're just so excited to read this, the allegory of the olive tree. Right? Now, we could spend an hour talking about the allegory of the olive tree and still not do it justice. I want to go in and show you one little segment that I think might be applicable to you, you wonderful people here in Italy who are doing your best to move forward in faith and live the gospel of Jesus Christ to the best of your ability. And sometimes there are people in your life, maybe even you, but definitely people you know who will fit into this category. The Lord of the vineyard comes down and he visits the vineyard 4 times. We're not going to get into the details. Let me just cut to the chase, make it very simple here. There's one point where the servant goes to the Lord and almost reprimands him, almost tells him he did something dumb, shouldn't have done this. It starts Jacob 5, verse 21. Start with me in verse 21. And it came to pass that the servant said unto his master, how comest thou hither to plant this tree or this branch of the tree? For behold, it was the poorest spot in all the land of thy vineyard. In other words, what's the servant saying to the Lord? What were you thinking? Putting this tree here. Have you seen the land? This is awful soil. Nothing can grow here. That was dumb. I can picture the gentle smile from the Lord looking at the servant as he's now going to give him principles to help him understand. But don't miss the point. We're not reading just history. We're reading your story. You see, some of you have had a really, really rough beginning on life. Some of you have come from backgrounds where there's no way you should have been able to succeed because of the negative influences that were a part of the soil that you were growing in. And if not you, then somebody you know. Let's look for a couple of principles that will help us. Verse 22, here comes the first principle. The Lord of the vineyard said unto him, counsel me not. In other words, don't tell me what to do and what not to do. I'm the Lord of the vineyard and I know what's best. Principle number 1. Don't tell the Lord he shouldn't have done something. His thoughts and ways are higher than ours. Principle number 2. I knew that it was a poor spot of ground. Newsflash. God knew exactly, better than the servant knew. God knew what that soil was like when he planted the tree there. Principle number 3. Wherefore I said unto thee, I have nourished it this long time. And number 4, thou beholdest that it hath brought forth much fruit. I've nourished it because I knew the ground wasn't going to be nourishing it very well. I did the nourishing. And look, it's got fruit. It's good. The servant must have been saying to himself, okay, I'm convinced. But God's not done convincing him or you. Look at the next verse. And it came to pass, this is verse 24, that the Lord of the vineyard said again unto his servant, look hither, and behold another branch also, which I have planted. Behold, that I have nourished it also, and it brought forth much fruit. I missed verse 23, didn't I? Look hither. Yeah, verse 23, sorry. It came to pass, the Lord of the vineyard said unto the servant, Look hither, behold, I have planted another branch of the tree also, and thou knowest that this spot of ground was poorer than the first. Principle number 5, you think you've got it bad? What will the Lord always be able to show you? Somebody who had it worse. You thought that first place was bad? Check this out. And he shows him this spot that's even worse. But notice again, brothers and sisters, I have nourished it this long time, and it has brought forth much fruit. Now, to make this even more clear, look at verse 25. He takes the servant to the best spot of ground in the vineyard. Look hither and behold the last. Behold, this have I planted in a good spot of ground, and I have nourished it this long time, and only a part of the tree hath brought forth good fruit, and the other part hath brought forth wild fruit. Brothers and sisters, I think there's a message for you and me here. Your past does not determine your fruitfulness or your ability to do good things and bring forth good works of faith and righteousness and goodness as you move forward in your wilderness experience. You cannot play the victim card forever. Eventually you have to say, yeah, I was planted in a rough spot of ground, but my God hath been my support. He's the one who's nourishing me. I can be fruitful. And you'll notice that fruit inside of it has seed. Plant seed, more trees can grow. You can spread your faith. You can spread the righteousness that you've experienced from God if you'll stop worrying about your past and worry more about your future and your present. In other words, don't spend a lot of time worrying about the roots, digging around in the roots and finding what's wrong, because then you'll just get dirty. Work on the fruit. Work on fruits of faith and righteousness and trusting more in God, not less. Trusting more. What about those of you who have people in your family or friends who lose the faith? Who they're progressing, they're doing good things, and then they read something on the internet. Or they have a friend who introduces them to something. Or they give in to temptation and sin. Or fall into addiction and then walk away from the church. Walk away from their faith. Isn't it nice that Lehi gives us his dream and Nephi records it in 1 Nephi 8? For the sake of time, consider this for a minute. You have a straight and narrow path. You have a rod of iron leading to the tree of life. And right next to the rod of iron, it tells you very clearly, path, rod, river. And that river is not a good thing. It's a filthy river, Nephi tells us later on. It represents the depths of hell. Some of us would throw up our hands and say, what was the Lord thinking? But we've learned from this servant to not ask that question. He knows what he's doing. Why would God put his path and his rod right next to the depth of hell and this filthy river of sin and addiction and struggles of mortality? Why wouldn't he put it a mile away to make it so that people who are working their way up the path don't have so much temptation to fall into the river? You see, if we take that viewpoint, we're probably not looking at it the way God is. I think God put the rod right next to the filthy river precisely because he loves all of us, and he recognizes that everybody in this room is imperfect, and we're all going to spend some time in that river to one degree or another. And isn't it wonderful that if you're in the river and you're being, at first it's slow, at first it might be fun. The water parks are great, right? You just slide on down that water line. But then you find that there's some waterfalls and some boulders and you start getting hurt. And you say, wait a minute, I'm in over my head. I didn't want this to happen. Isn't it wonderful that the rod is right there, that they reach out and grab the rod. They don't have to pull themselves out of the river and crawl across a mile of wilderness to find the rod. It's right there. Now, brothers and sisters, you all know people who have lost their faith. You all know people who have fallen into that river. Some of them very close to you. The closer to you they are, the harder it hurts in your heart. Isn't it neat that Lehi gives us this beautiful example? He climbs up the path. He gets to the tree. He eats the fruit. It's delicious. It's beyond anything that he's ever tasted before. Bolo, right? What does he do? He turns around and he sees his family, and ironically, the first people he sees are Laman and Lemuel, and he beckons to them. And what did Laman and Lemuel do? They didn't come. Brothers and sisters, my story, I have sisters, 3 of them, who have left the church. You've probably got people who you know who have left the church. One of the strong messages for me from Lehi's vision is Lehi didn't leave the tree. Just because his boys wouldn't come, or just because other multitudes were going all kinds of different directions, Lehi never left the faith. He kept the faith. He stayed at the tree, regardless of what was happening out there. Now, if the Book of Mormon is really written for our day, we've touched on it. What about Mormon and Moroni and Nephi and Jacob looking down through the corridor of time? And they tell us in the text in multiple places, they say, we've seen your day. Moroni even goes as far as to say, I speak unto you as if you are present, and yet you are not. But God hath shown you unto me, and I know your doings. So every once in a while when you're walking down the street, you might just look upward and wave and smile and say, hi, Moroni. Who knows when he sees you, but he sees our day. I think that would be cool, wouldn't it? Here's Moroni looking through the corridor of time and people waving at him. That would be fun. Go ahead, wave to him. Okay, 3 of you waved. All right. So you would think that if they really saw our day, they would write the book specifically for what we need. Isn't it interesting that you have all of this war, corruption, government problems, people with sins, with major issues, and then we finally, after wading through all these pages of bad stuff, we finally get a perfect society in 4th Nephi. And what did Mormon do? He gave you 2 pages in the perfect society. 2 pages. And then he gives you 2 more pages in 4th Nephi of the decline of the perfect society. And that's it. That's all you get. Do you realize that if you go from the beginning of 4th Nephi to the end of 4th Nephi, you've covered 200 plus years? To get the same time period, that was 4 pages, to get the same time period, you have to go back more than 300 pages into the Book of Mormon. Mormon gave you 323 pages, and then he gave you 4 pages. Rough, awful war, bloodshed, struggles, people losing faith, church rising, church falling, struggles all over the place. 323 pages. Finally, the good stuff, a Mormon says, you don't need this. That's not your day. I'm not going to give you many details. I'm only going to give you 4 pages. In the same time period that I gave you 323 pages. I think that's for our day. Therefore, we have to stop and say, there's something about these wars, for instance. Who likes the war chapters? I have to wait. 3 of you? The war chapters are beautiful. For our day, if you look very closely, they're divided into two parts. Chapters 43 through 49, the Nephites were able to hold the Lamanites completely off. So you could look at 43 through 49 in Alma and say, oh wow, these are how I could keep sin out of my life. Then something happens in chapter 50. The Lamanites give in. And they take over a whole bunch of cities. And so then chapter 50 through 63 becomes a nice little guidebook, a handbook, for how to get rid of sin once it's gotten into your life. It's a beautiful pattern. By the way, we could spend tons of time there, but let's just tell one little quick thing with preventing sin. The first time the Lamanites come, Captain Moroni has his people dressed in thick armor and thick clothing, and they win. The second time the Lamanites come, Moroni didn't rely on the thick armor. He built big mounds of dirt. They won again. He didn't stop there. The Lamanites went home. He knew they were coming again, and brothers and sisters, you know the devil's coming again. He always does. So he built a thick breastwork of timbers and built towers, and he fortified the line, the border. He's doing everything he can to keep that sin out. You and I can't ever say, oh, I'm good, I don't need to read my scriptures because I've read the Book of Mormon before. We have to keep going on and on and on. We could cover all kinds of other examples, but let me finish with a story instead. This wilderness journey you and I are on. My little Jarrett, he's now 8 years old. At the time of this story, he was 3, and he was having a very hard time getting potty trained. He was still struggling with diapers, and he was almost 4. And I worked with him, and finally I said, Jarrett, tell you what, you go 7 days without any accidents, and you get a date one-on-one with Daddy anywhere you want to go. Where do you want to go? McDonald's. It's always their answer. McDonald's. Done. Day 3, he had had no accidents. Day 3, I come up into my bedroom, and I looked into my bathroom, and there's Jarrett with his back to me in a dark bathroom, and he's hunched down on the ground. He heard me coming. I went in, looked over his back, and I noticed that he had 2 pieces of toilet paper, and he was trying to clean up his little accident on the tile floor. He was making it worse. It was getting it in the grout and everything. It was bad. I won't go there. I said, Jarrett, did you have an accident? And he didn't respond. He just broke down crying. Now, I'm not a perfect dad, and I've had lots of problems, but in that moment, my heart melted, and I did, I think, the right thing. I knelt down. I held that little boy. I just held this little, almost 4-year-old boy close to me. I said, it's okay. And he looked at me and he said, I'll never get that date, will I, Dad? I said, oh, yes, you will. I'm going to help you. Do you want me to clean up this mess? Thank you, because it was a lot better for me to clean it up. I could do a lot better job of cleaning it up without making it a bigger mess. My dear brothers and sisters, we all have accidents. We all mess up. In your heart, I think everybody in this room desperately wants to be good. You want to get that date. But the reality is we're imperfect. We struggle. Thank heaven that we have a God who's willing to say, I'll clean up your mess. And then in return, I'm going to help you. I'll remind you more often. I'll give you more encouragement. We're going to get that date. Jarrett and I got that date. 7 days later, we got that date. But that was a powerful moment I'll never forget. Because in that moment, in that little boy's tears and in his statement, I'll never get that date, will I, Daddy? Was captured my feelings of inadequacy as a disciple of Christ. And in that moment, I could feel the Lord's love for me saying, no, you're not a perfect dad. Yes, you do have problems, and yes, you are making mistakes. If you'll let me, I'll clean them up, and I'll help you get that date. God bless you, good people. How He loves you for your goodness. How He loves you for your desires for righteousness and faith. You're all in a wilderness to one degree or another. He's with you, and I hope you can feel His presence as He guides you. And don't be frustrated with Him when He asks you, what do you want me to do about this problem that you're in? He trusts you to use your agency. God bless you as you move forward in the faith, regardless of what else is happening around you. Keep the faith and spread the faith. I leave with you my testimony that I know with an absolute assurance God lives. He's your Father. The Lord of the universe is your Father, and He loves you, and He sent His almighty Son to save you. And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the vehicle through which He's going to provide the fullness of the gospel and the fullness of those priesthood ordinances, which will help you to become who you need to become. I love you, good people. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.